Here we are back on Indie Influencer for Channel Indie. We are doing a special series on Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival is 51 years old. It is the oldest in America, the oldest genre film festival. We're thrilled to have some of the filmmakers here, and we're going to chat with them and continue finding out about their quite brilliant movies. And speaking of quite brilliant, Randall, please tell us about your film.
My film is called The Gun. It's an animated short, and it's the first ever adaptation of the short story, The Gun, by Philip K. Dick. So, Blade Runner, Man in the High Castle, Minority Report, just, you know, almost all of his stories have been adapted, I think. But this is the first one, and it's an anti-war film. It's a cautionary tale. And I brought in a fantastic artist, Ken Garduno, to do the concept art, and a great composer. It was actually the composer's idea from the beginning. Many people at Q&As at other festivals have asked about the score, and it's fun for me to be able to say, surprisingly, this started with the music. So it's got a cool electronic sci-fi vibe to the music, but yeah, The Gun by Philip K. Dick.
Could you give us, because if it's the one I think it is, I'm going to be in that audience because it's one of my favorite short stories. If it's the one I think it is, could you give us like a little teaser? No spoilers, just could you
Yeah,
tell
of
us a
course.
little
So
about?
this isn't a spoiler, but the setup is basically a distant planet with no life, completely desolate. A team of scientists are investigating. They're about to leave, and they find what they think are the remnants of buildings. And when they go to investigate, descend onto the planet, they get shot out of the sky by a gun. And so there is a gun that still works. Um, and they realize it's a civilization was annihilated through war, and all that's left is the gun. That's kind of that. The film opens with, um, you know, the only the guns showed signs of life. The planet was dead, lifeless. Only the gun works. So it's called the gun. And then they can't get off the planet. You'll have to watch the film to find out what happens. But that's the
Excellent.
setup.
And I certainly will. Yes, that's one of my favorite short stories. That's absolutely incredible. Brilliant. Okay, I've always said that horror and science fiction are prophetic. They're clairvoyant, if you will. They tell stories using, as Rod Serling used to say, ghosts and robots, but they mean something much deeper.
Yep.
I get the sense of a much deeper parable going on underneath here than a distant planet.
100%. It's a cautionary tale. We started this project many years ago, but it seems like it's the most timely time in history for this thing to come. And if people don't think about consequences of militarization and war. That's what this whole thing is. It's a whole civilization that's gone, and there's just like an AI gun that still works, and it's a terrifying weapon that shoots everything. And the characters in the story can't get off the planet now because there's a gun that still works. Um, but I think about, it's connected to today, but one thing I talk about is there was a Japanese fighter pilot named Kanami Harada, World War II, killed a lot of people. But after the war, he had post-traumatic stress. He became a pacifist. In 2015, the Japanese government was trying to rewrite the constitution to remilitarize. Kanami Harada was still alive. He was old, but there's this famous quote where he said, "These politicians were born after the war. And so they don't understand that it must be avoided at all costs. In this respect, they're like our pre-war leaders." And I feel like this film, The Gun, is this same concept where these people don't realize what making a big, terrifying weapon could do. There could be a scenario where only the weapon is left. So definitely relevant. Definitely everyone on the team is on board with this message. And I hope it gets out like that people, if nothing else, consequences, that there are unforeseen consequences to everything we're doing in our society.
That's great. Um, I always ask this question when I hear a topic like this. I call it my quiz show question. Are you a genius on purpose or by accident? Uh, when you started this, did you start it? Did you know that you were creating this very powerful parable, or halfway through you just went, okay, this is the and it suddenly dawned on you. Are you a genius on purpose or by accident?
Well, this is an adaptation by Philip K. Dick. So, the credit kind of goes to him. The adaptation I think is really good. I stayed pretty faithful to the original story. But my previous film, The Driver is Red, um, it went to Sundance, went to a lot of film festivals, but it's a true story about the capture of a Nazi war criminal, and it deals with the Holocaust. Today is actually International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and that's the same. It's the same story. They built a place called Treblinka where they murdered 900,000 people in 13 months. There wasn't even slave labor like Auschwitz. Auschwitz, they killed 1.1 million people. That was the consequences of a lot of stuff that people didn't really think was going to be that big of a problem. We just wanted these people who were foreign out of our country. And it ended up in another country, in what's present day Poland. And, people, that was something that was out of sight, out of mind. And, early on, when they just wanted to keep the Jewish people from being in the same parks in Berlin, they didn't think about the ultimate consequences 12 years later that they would be building Auschwitz in another country, in the middle of a war. So I've always been very, very sensitive to this kind of stuff. So when I came across this story that Philip K. Dick wrote in 1952, it's kind of obscure. Not a lot of people know about it. He wrote it for a magazine called Planetary Stories, but I immediately picked up on the message. And it's, Rod Serling, who you mentioned. I'm a big fan. He was actually a Jewish guy. Um, and very, very, I think he might have even, had Holocaust survivor relatives. But, these people that know consequences of war, and sci-fi is a great vehicle to talk about that without feeling preachy or, kind of, hitting people over the head with a message. And we kept this film kind of Twilight Zone vibe. We talked about that a lot, the team, where we don't want it to come across heavy-handed. It's a science, it's this distant planet, and there's this terrifying gun, sci-fi, but it's a cautionary tale.
You're ticking all the right boxes. I guess you're a genius on purpose. It's funny you talk about Rod Serling. You talk about the Twilight Zone. He wrote the teleplay for Judgment at Nuremberg, and of course the sponsors wanted to edit the heck out of it because the talking about gas ovens. The sponsors thought that the audience would be worried and connect General Electric's confection ovens to it, and so they literally stopped the audio. And so when you saw it in the original form, there was literally silence on certain lines because they didn't want the audience to hear it. Rod Serling was so infuriated at this that he said he has to get his message as across, and maybe they won't pay attention if we're talking about ghosts and robots and not other people. And he started the Twilight Zone. So you're following a very powerful path, and I think that is absolutely wonderful. Your work should be required watching. When is it going up at the festival?
I'm actually not sure of the time, but it's Wednesday. Um, it's the first day of the festival. Uh, Forgive me if I don't know the exact time, but
Okay,
yeah, it's in a shorts block. It's a
not a
13-minute
problem.
short film.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, you go to bostonsci-fi.com for information on this and all the very powerful, very exciting works that are going to be at Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. And as Randall said, it's going to be February 11, his show, but it's February 11 through the 16th with the marathon starting on the 15th. So you have an opportunity to see a multitude of parables that take place on distant planets in other time periods and other good things like that. Randall, I wish you a lot of luck with that. I think that's absolutely wonderful. Good for you. Keep going with your messages.
Thank
Excellent,
you.
excellent, excellent. Matt, take us home. Tell us about your film.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on here, and also to the Sci-Fi Film Festival of Boston. I love genre festivals. I think they're important. I think the audiences are incredible for those because they know what they like and they come out to them, and such a great venue to be at to enjoy this festival. So I hope everybody gets to come out. I'm not going to get to be there. It happens during the week, and I just can't get up there from Knoxville, Tennessee. But I'm very happy to be included in this festival. It was a huge honor. Um, Ours is a live action short film. It is a sci-fi film that would maybe remind you in in cinematic look, a little bit of Signs from back in the day, but it's very much story wise out of the Twilight Zone. It's got aliens in it, but there's also silliness, a little mirth, and it's not too heavy handed. Just as we were talking about, it was the concept came out of COVID lockdowns and me basically as a writer thinking, what kind of characters would I like to put in a room together where they could not leave and had to be around each other, and sort of explore who you want to be the villain and who you want to be the good person, and kind of flip that on its head. So it's a little more about that. It's a little more about interaction of different personalities than it is about aliens. But luckily, there are aliens in this, which means I get to be a part of a great festival. So
it's funny you mentioned Twilight Zone. I could think of many Twilight Zones where a group of people are together in a particular area. Two come to mind. One, it turns out that they're all dolls in this
6 characters in search of an exit. Amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. And the other one, they're at a diner and trying to figure out which one is the alien. So you're carrying on a very powerful tradition. That's great. You're also a little Shakespearean in there. It's known that Shakespeare, in all his tragedies, would always put one humorous character because he said the audience just couldn't take all that heaviness for so long. He was talking about a 4-hour play, but that's another story.
Right.
So the fact you're throwing a little humor in there is absolutely wonderful. Where are they that they're trapped?
So this story actually takes place near my hometown in a place called Oak Ridge, which is the site of the Manhattan Project, obviously. And so the setup premise of this is that Area 51 has been breached so many times that they're kind of distributing detainees across the country. And one of these places happens to be the Oak Ridge National Lab, and there's a breach and everyone's in a lockdown. And so they are trapped at, my film is called The Recluse. They're trapped at the Recluse's cabin. He does not want to let these folks in, but he does at the risk of keeping his door open too long. So there's just a cast of characters that happen to show up, and he's sort of holding them at gunpoint in his living room while the curfew passes, basically. And we know there's aliens. We just don't know who they are, which is kind of a cool part of the film that we tried to delay as long as possible.
Interesting. We have 2 parables going on here. We have the COVID lockdown parable, and there's another one. Let me see now. Detainees being sent to other places. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think I see another parable happening in there as well. Good for you. Another genius on purpose.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I don't know about that.
When is yours going up?
So mine will be playing Thursday. I think it starts at 6:00 in the Shorts block. Same place, everything plays it. Somerville Theater, I think. And just excited to be a part of that short block of films.
Excellent. Okay, Thursday. Got to see this. I will have visions of Twilight Zone in my head as I'm watching your film. That is absolutely wonderful.
Can't
Ladies
wait.
and gentlemen, the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival, the 51st edition, takes place February 11 through the 16 at the Somerville Theater in Somerville, Massachusetts. You go to bostonsci-fi.com for tickets, other information, film schedules, and all of that other good stuff. Gentlemen, I wish you the absolute best on these 2 movies. I applaud you for the bravery in taking the fantastical and giving us the cautionary tale within it, by putting the spoonful of medicine in the sugar. I think is absolutely wonderful, and I wish you both a great deal of luck with these films. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.
My pleasure.